Hi guys, my name is Guy Mayer. I am the creator of the HeartView project, and today we're going to go through the build instructions for putting together the test station. So let's get started. Okay, so the first things that we're going to take a look at here in terms of putting it together is the shields. So these two are the shields. This one is for the pacemaker, and it's slightly more complex. And this one is for the heart, the testing controller that is going to connect to HeartView. And these ones each have their own boards that they connect to. So we're just going to put those on the side. And we have the Nucleo F446RE. This one is going to connect to this shield. And we have the K64F that you might recognize from previous years, and that's going to connect to the pacemaker. So we're going to unveil those in a second, and then we can put them together into the test station. Let's put those aside for a second, and let's take a look at some of the other components. So everything is going to be housed in a laser cut acrylic right here, and you can sort of see, if you can see that, you can see the top panel has an outline and some of the text on it written in engraved letters. So when it all comes together, the students and the people working on this will be able to see right into the electronics, but also know what it is that they're interfacing with, right? So this is the top panel with lots of the engraving, and the bottom panel, which is a 1/8 inch clear acrylic. This is 1/16, and it has all of the holes that are going to mount to the bottom of the boards. So this one is going to be on the bottom, this one will be on top, and everything will fit in the between. You guys will see that in a second. So we put these ones on the side as well. We'll just leave them right here for a second. We'll take a look at some of the components. So in terms of cabling, we have two different types of cables. We have these two cables that are going to connect, they're going to bridge between the boards, like this. Put this aside. One of them is going to bridge between the bigger connector, like this, and another one is going to bridge between the smaller connector, like this. And we'll see that in action when we start putting everything together. Okay? So let's put the cables aside for a second, put the shields aside. Let's take a look again at some of the hardware that we're going to be looking at. So the big holes on the outside here, these 4 holes, are going to be connected using 1024 screws. So we have 4 of them right there. And there's also going to be spacers that maintain distance from both the plates. And to attach everything together, we have 1024 nuts. Then we have 1024 acorn nuts that are going to act as legs for the platform in order to hold it so that it doesn't scratch the table, and it'll be a nice finish. People can just lay it on their table. We'll take a look at that. So that's some of the hardware holding the 2 plates together. Some of the hardware holding the boards is this is a 3/4 inch 440 bolt. We have 3/8 unthreaded spacers, number 4, so fitting the 440 size. Then we have 3 nuts. And so this collection, so specifically the 3/8 spacers, these ones are going to be used for the Nucleo. So that's going to be for this board. And the difference, we'll talk about that in a second. And then we have 440 bolts. These ones are a 1/2 inch, I believe. And there's also 1/4 inch unthreaded spacers. So these ones are shorter. And the reason that they're shorter is that the Nucleo and the K64F, they have different bottoms, so different distances in order to align them to the top plate. And we'll see that when we start playing. And so these are the spacers, these are the bolts, and then we also have 4 440 nuts that are going to connect to the bottom as well. So the reason that we have 2 different spacer lengths is that the Nucleo 446RE has these pins at the bottom that kind of create extra distance. The K64F, here I have an open one right here, does not have these pins. So if we sort of compare the two, you'll see that in order for them to sort of balance at the same height, we're going to have to use different spacers. So that's the reason for that. Just make sure you use the same spacers when you're assembling it. Okay. And so the only thing that's left, let's put this aside. And the bolts, the nuts. And then the only thing that's left is this cable that's going to attach from the Nucleo to the computer. That's in terms of electronics and hardware, but there's one other component that we'll need to take care of, and that's packaging. So actually getting it to the other people. So we're going to use a standard white box like this. This box opens up as such, and you'll be able to put everything inside. You can sort of see it from afar. It looks something like this, right? What we'll also do is we'll have an anti-static sleeve that will be able to hold the board and create some protection for it as it's being shipped. And we also have a piece of instruction for the students that'll be at the bottom. So we're going to print a lot of these, put them at the bottom of the box. So when the students unpack, they'll be able to understand what needs to go where, what needs to be connected. And it even has some USB explanations, some of the ports, outlining the USB types to help them figure it out. So let's take a look at the first step. Let's get started in terms of assembly. So what we're going to do first is we're going to unbox the boards here. So let's first take a look at what's inside this box. So if we open it, right here, we'll have a couple of things, information, and we'll have a cable. This is very important. We need to keep this for the students. And we also have the Nucleo, the Freedom K64F inside this anti-static bag. Okay, let's put that back here. So for administrative purposes, you can write down some of the information on the back of here. And we might want to sort of number the boards themselves, the test stations, but we won't do that right now. We'll make another video on that potentially. So we take a look at the cable. This is a standard USB. This is a USB micro. It's a regular USB 3.0. So we'll keep that in the bag for now, but we'll attach it. We'll throw it in the box later to be shipped. The Nucleo, the K64F comes in an anti-static bag. We'll open it up, make sure you're grounded. And it comes like this. It comes with these little legs. We're going to remove these little legs in a second so we can fit the screws through, some of the bolts, and be able to mount it to the bottom plate. And that's actually what we're going to start with. So let's be organized. Put this back in here. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to remove these legs. Right, they're a little annoying, but you see that they unveil these holes that we're going to use to mount the board. To do that, it might take a little bit of force, and then let's put the legs on the side here. We won't have use for them, but if you want to save them for whatever reason. Okay, so now we have this. We can take the bottom plate of acrylic. Now this piece is sided, so there is one side that is the correct side, and you'll see that here there's this 3-hole arrangement, and we want to keep that on the bottom right. This 3-hole arrangement where this one-off hole is close to the bottom right. That's important to us. And so when we'll place the boards, it'll look something like this. This one will go here, and the Nucleo, which we'll unbox in a second, will go on the right side. So if we open up the Nucleo as well, so the Nucleo, it's a bit trickier. Without damaging anything, very slowly unbox it, making it quite annoying, but be careful not to damage the pins. Okay, so we have the Nucleo. Both boards are unboxed. And so you can see that the 3-hole arrangement, 1, 2, and 3, that needs to line up with the 3 holes on here, right? So if you do this right here, it'll look something like this in a second. Okay? Alright, so let's first do the K64F, and we'll take the smaller spacer set. So we're looking at the 1/4 size and the 1/2 bolts. So what we do is we can put the bolts through. This from the camera so everyone can see. Right, so we have these 4 bolts, and then what we want to do is you want to fit the spacers on top of them. If we can sort of hold down these bolts, we can take the plate, we can fit it through. Right, so we have something like that. Okay, what we'll do, we'll take these nuts. These are the 440 nuts. We'll take 4 of them and we'll place them on lightly, just to hold it as we start. So now we have the 4 of these. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to tighten it onto that board. So you can grab a pair of tweezers or pliers, and you can tighten it on top. So I'm just going to grab these needle nose pliers and tighten them a bit. And so not too much. We don't want to crack the acrylic. Just a comfortable amount. Just a little bit. And so I'm using round pliers, which is definitely a mistake, but any pliers will do. So just tight enough so that you have a nice strong connection. And so we also put an alternative of putting Loctite on these so that there's no chance for them to unwind. And we can actually look into that. And maybe we'll do an example of how to put on Loctite as well. Okay. And so now the K64F is mounted on top of the bottom plate, and now we need to mount the Nucleo. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab the 3/4 inch bolts. We're going to put on the unthreaded spacers. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to slide it through these holes. Okay. And so you'll see I have a situation here where this bolt is really close to this edge. So you don't have to force it in. You can turn it in or just wiggle it through like this. And we can actually, through tightening it, the bolt will come through a little bit and will be easier to see it coming in. So again, let's put the bolt in. With a different head size, that might change. Okay. Very nice. We'll take the pliers and we'll tighten it ever so slightly. As you can see, as I tighten it, this bolt starts coming down. So it's fine. Okay. And now we have the two boards mounted really securely on the board. You can give it a wiggle just to see that they are, and we're good to go. Okay. So the next step here is mounting the shields. So it's very important to know which one goes where, because we only want to do this once. We don't want to remove the shield too many times. We don't want to bend the pins here. Right? We like that the pins are nice and straight, so we want to do this once. So the one with the switch here, that's the pacemaker. That's the attenuation switch, and we want that here. The way that it goes on is on the outside lanes, right? So you see how it's on the outside lanes on both sides. That's where it goes. And so it fits perfectly, 6, 8 pins, and then 8 and 10 pins. You should see every single pin going in to the board. And so you can very slowly, very gently push it in to the board. Not at an angle, maintaining straightness at all time. And that is one mounted shield. Okay. We'll take the other shield here. We'll do the same thing. Same situation with the pins. Same number of pins, same footprint, which is why it's important to not get mixed up, because the shields will fit the other board. Make sure that you put it on the right one. Okay. So if we push in here a little bit. Okay, great. Looks good so far. Now we need to mount the top plate and the spacers on the side. Okay. So what we can do here is we can grab the top plate and you can just see that it fits first. We made sure that everything was right. And it should just be able to slide in, and you should be able to see that the connectors fit inside, right? We have these connectors here, and the LEDs. All right. What we do is, with this one, we take a bolt, spacer. You can, if you'd like, put it on its side, and you can put the spacer in and run it through. And you'll have a situation like this. You can then take a 1024 nut, put it on. You don't have to tighten it very much because we want to put all the other ones and give it some wiggle room. And then grab an acorn nut, throw that on top. Okay, we'll just leave it like that for now. I'll go to the other corner. grab a 1024 nut, bolt, and a spacer, and we'll do the same thing. We'll put it through, we'll grab a nut, put the nut on, put the acorn. And we'll do that for all sides. Grab a nut. Grab an acorn. So the fit's supposed to be pretty easy, pretty snug. The laser cut is quite accurate. If at every moment you feel like you're really forcing something through, it's probably wrong. Okay, so that's the setup. Now they're all in, let's give it a tighten. So what we can is, with this flat one, maybe a little hard with the acorn on there as well, but what we want to do is tighten this one quite extensively, just to make sure that it's not coming loose once shipped. You have to be careful because you definitely don't want to crack the acrylic. So a good tighten, but not too excited. Put the acorn on top, give that a tiny turn, and you're good to go. And you can keep going here. Just a little bit, the acorn on. So when you have two nuts like this, it's usually a very good fit. But once again, the option of putting Loctite is likely a good idea, just to make sure that it's a good fit, that it's snug and strong, and we won't have any mishaps. And so it would also be good is if you want to grab a screwdriver and hold it on one end. You can do that as well. We're getting a pretty good turn here. But it'll definitely help you get a more secure connection. Put the acorn on top. Give that a squeeze. And you're good to go. So now we have quite a rigid clustation. And you'll see that it's standing on all four, so you don't have the opportunity of scratching the table. So the acorns are farther than the bolts that we have here. Okay. So there you go. That's the mechanical setup. And what we'll want to do right now is we'll want to check cabling connections. So we're going to grab our two cables, and this one is the 2.5 millimeter JST, and that goes in from the pacemaker in to the heart out. And so this cable runs signals that are generated by the heart into the pacemaker. So these are natural signals that are being run on this cable. The artificial signals generated by the pacemaker signals, are run on the other cable. We can connect that from here, pacemaker out to heart in. And these are the signals that generate artificial signals that will pace the heart in a malfunction. Okay? You see that the LEDs are poking out. It's good. And we want to sort of check these connectors by plugging them in and out once or twice, making sure that they're a good fit. So we're good to go. That was a good connection. And so the cables, it's also important to check that you are running the right lettering. So V plus runs across to V plus. And they're noted on the board, so you can see that. But the cabling will be tested before and checked. Okay, so now that we know that the cabling is good, we can go ahead and we can check that these are attaching right. We can plug that into the Nucleo, check that the cable is running right. And this is where we bring back the cable that we found in the K64F. And we can unpack it and check that as well, just to make sure that we have all of the right cables and that we're not forgetting anything. Okay, so you put that back in there. We might ship it along with it. And now we can take a look at packaging it all together into something that we can send. Okay. So if we look at the box that we have here, this is a 7 by 5 by 3 inch box. We can fold it in. It comes as a flat sheet, and we fold it into this shape, and it closes just by pushing that sleeve inside there. Makes a very nice fit. We can put a sticker here and the shipping label on top. Okay, so we'll open that right now, and we'll set up the package. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sleeve, we're going to open it up, and we're going to fit the test station inside this sleeve. Now we're only going to put the test station inside the sleeve. And we're going to wrap it up, make sure it's on one side so that it makes a nice fit inside the box. And you can see that if we put it in there, it'll fit well inside that box. Okay. What we'll do is we'll take this bag and we'll put all of the necessary cables inside. There. And the big cable that we have. And so when the students unpack this, they'll have one bag for cables and one bag for the test station. Okay? So if we're looking at what goes inside the box, when they unpack it, they want to be able to see this. So we're going to put that face up so they can see it inside. We're going to package this. Put that inside and have just enough room for the cables on the side. And close the box. And there you go. That is one packaged test station. Good luck.